Welcome, everyone. Today I've brought you an extremely thrilling and 100% curiosity-packed psychological thriller that came out in 2025. And trust me, this one is something else. Usually it's at the end of a film that something unexpected happens, what we call a plot twist. Well, this film's story has several twists like that, twists you genuinely can't see coming. You can't predict what's going to happen in the next moment. From that alone, you can tell what kind of incredible film I've brought you today. Without praising it too much, let me just get into how the story begins. Millie is a young woman who was imprisoned a while back for a murder she committed and has now been released. Right now, Millie has nowhere to stay. She eats, drinks, sleeps, does everything inside her car. Millie is currently in the middle of searching for a job. One day, she comes across an advertisement from a wealthy family called Winchester saying they're looking for a housemaid. Millie comes to this house. The people living here are a mother, a father, and a daughter. The mother's name is Nina, also a young woman. After talking with Millie, Nina chooses her to work as their housemaid. But from the very moment she arrives, Millie feels something strange. She gets this feeling that some mysterious secret is hidden inside this house, but she can't figure out what it is. Take the room she's given in the attic. No working windows. The one window there seems completely sealed shut, and when she asks if it can be opened, Nina says sorry, there's no way. And that's just one thing. There are lots of other strange, unsettling things inside this house just like that. Then one night, something happens that completely turns Millie's life upside down. From that point on, she has to face a whole lot of very scary things. So what are those things? What is actually happening in this house? What is the mystery hidden inside it? Those are the questions this incredible psychological thriller starts with. A story that's different from anything else, that keeps you watching with growing curiosity. This 2025 film is called The Housemaid. I invite all our Plotwalkers to come and watch the complete story of this amazing film right until the last minute. So then, what crime did this young woman Millie commit a long time ago? Who did she kill? What is the mystery hidden in the house where she comes to work as a housemaid after being released from prison? What kind of frightening things does she have to face after arriving here? And will Millie be able to uncover the secret nobody knows and save her life? Let's get into it. The main character of this film is the young woman called Millie. Right from the start, we see her arriving at the house of the very wealthy Winchester family. Calling it a house is an understatement. It's more like a large mansion. At this point, the only person inside is a young woman named Nina, who welcomes Millie very warmly. Nina had put out an advertisement looking for a new housemaid, and Millie had found the details and come to the house. Nina checks through Millie's background a little. Millie had even gone to college, meaning she's quite well educated. Nina sees that Millie is actually more than qualified for this kind of work, so she asks, "Why did you choose this kind of job?" Nina is essentially interviewing Millie at this point. Millie tells her honestly, "I studied a lot, but this is the kind of work I want to do. I love cooking. That's why I'm here." Nina seems pleased with that. She tells Millie there's cooking to be done, cleaning to be done, and one more thing, she'll also need to look after her daughter. Her daughter's name is Cece, 7 years old. As Nina shows Millie around the house, she tells her the rest of the details. Her husband's name is Andrew, and he works at a tech company. Nina tells Millie, "If we take you on, from that point, you'll be like a family member. You can go anywhere in the house, live here like it's your own home, no problem at all." Not just that, Nina also shares something personal. She's currently expecting a baby. She hasn't fully confirmed it yet, and she hasn't told Andrew either. She asks Millie to keep it a secret for now. Millie agrees without hesitation. Nina shows her Cece's room, her toys, then brings Millie all the way up to the attic, to the room she'd stay in if she gets the job. Nina explains, "Whatever you do in here stays in here, because no sound carries down to the rest of the house. You can stay in this room freely." After all that, Nina takes Millie's details and tells her she'll do a proper check and be in touch. And then, even though Millie hasn't been hired yet, Nina presses some money into her hand. Millie protests. She only came for the interview. But Nina insists warmly and puts the money directly into her hand. Millie takes it and leaves. Walking out, though, Millie already knows the truth. She's not getting this job. Because of a crime she committed a while back, she's been in prison for years. She hasn't been completely released yet. It's more like a kind of early parole. And she knows very well that for a big, wealthy place like this, nobody is going to hire someone with her record. That's why Millie tells herself not to get her hopes up. Her situation right now is desperate. No job, no place to stay. She eats, sleeps, does everything in her tiny little car. She goes to a public restroom to clean herself up. Some mornings, the police come and knock on her window, and she has to lie and say she got sleepy while driving and pulled over. But she can't keep doing this forever. She knows that. Then her phone rings. It's Nina. Nina checked the details. She wants Millie. The job is hers. Millie is overjoyed. She doesn't waste a single moment and comes back to the house that same afternoon. In the garden, she notices a man named Enzo working outside. Today is the first time she's seen him, and he's quite a strange person. He's watching her with a look that feels almost like fear. Not of her, for her. But Millie doesn't dwell on it and goes inside. The house, which was spotless during the interview, is now a mess. Nina clearly let things go while she was between housemaids, and on her very first day, Millie already has her work cut out for her. Nina comes and chats with her in the middle of it all, and notices that Millie isn't wearing glasses today. She'd worn them to the interview, not because she needed them, just to look a bit more polished. Nina notices the difference but doesn't make a big deal of it. She just says, "It doesn't matter that you don't have glasses. You're pretty either way." A few hours later, Nina's husband, Andrew, and their daughter, Cece, arrive home. Neither of them knew Nina had hired someone new. Nina introduces Millie warmly. "This is our new housemaid. She'll be staying with us from now on." Andrew looks at Millie with no particular reaction. No objection, just quiet acceptance. Later, Millie is alone in her room looking around. That's when she notices it. The lock on her door is on the outside. There's no way to lock herself in from the inside. Strange, she thinks, but maybe it's just an old door. She lets it go. Then she sees the window, fully sealed. No way to open it. She's barely settled in, and the room already feels a little wrong. She asks Nina about the window when Nina comes to check in. Nina apologizes and says she'll get someone to look at it. Then she hands Millie a phone. Her own old one, already loaded with house accounts, bills, and banking access. From now on, Millie will handle all of that. Nina is very happy to have found someone like her. She hugs her goodnight and leaves. The next morning, Millie wakes up late. After weeks of sleeping upright in a car, a real bed had knocked her out cold. She scrambles downstairs, but the door won't budge. She rattles it, then it swings open on its own. "Old door," she tells herself again. She rushes down and walks straight into a storm. Nina's notebooks have gone missing, and she's decided Millie must have done something with them. The woman who was so warm just yesterday is nowhere to be seen. In her place is someone completely different, furious, almost unrecognizable. Neither Millie nor we watching the film can understand how Nina changed so suddenly. Then Andrew steps in. He calms Nina down and turns to Millie to quietly apologize. She's having a difficult morning. Don't take it to heart. Millie goes back to work. Then she sees Enzo again through the window, watching her with that same unsettled look. When she takes out the rubbish, he comes over and speaks to her quietly but clearly. "You shouldn't be here. Leave, now." He looks like he wants to say more, but then he glances toward the house and goes silent, because Nina is watching from inside. Something is wrong here. Both Millie and we watching the story can feel it, but what exactly it is, we still can't quite figure out. Then, while cleaning Nina's bathroom, Millie finds a pill on the floor, a birth control pill, the kind taken specifically to prevent pregnancy. But Nina told her just yesterday that she's expecting a baby. So how did a contraceptive pill end up in Nina's bathroom? Millie stands there turning that over in her mind, but Nina appears in the doorway, sees Millie looking at it, and immediately tells her to get out. As the days go on, pattern starts to emerge. Nina is unpredictable. One moment warm, the next vicious, always without warning. But Andrew is steady and calm. He comes by while Millie is cooking and chats easily with her. He's kind in a way that makes this increasingly strange household feel a little more bearable. That night, after her work is done, Millie is in her room when Andrew appears at the door with her dessert. He comes close to her, but then Millie jolts awake. It was a dream. It's the next morning. Saturday arrives. Millie had arranged with Nina from the start that she'd have Saturdays off. She gets ready to leave, but Nina stops her. "No day off today," she says, but Millie has somewhere she has to be. She's still on parole. Every Saturday she has to check in with her officer, report where she's living, where she's working, how things are going. If she misses it, it's a serious problem. She tries to explain, but Nina won't hear it. Then Andrew steps in. He tells Millie to go. Today is her day off. She can go wherever she likes. At the check-in, the officer lays it out plainly. There are still 5 years left on her sentence. This parole is a privilege. Keep the job, stay clean, and one complaint from her employer could send her straight back inside. Millie knows all of this. She knows exactly how much is riding on this. On her way back, Nina calls. "Cece's ballet class is finished. Come pick her up on your way home." No address given, No details, just the instruction. Millie tracks down the studio through considerable effort, gets there, only to find that Cece isn't going home. She's going to a friend's house. Nina already knew that. She told Millie to go anyway, just to waste her time. Why Nina would do something like that, Millie can't understand. Millie comes home to find Andrew's mother has also come over, and Nina is chatting cheerfully with her about a new Chinese plate she brought back as a gift for Andrew. He collects them, apparently, has for years. Nina carries on as though nothing happened. She even turns it around on Millie, telling her, "I told you Cece was going to a friend's house after class. Why did you go to pick her up?" Even though it was Nina herself who sent Millie there. She never acknowledges sending Millie on a pointless trip. Then it's 2 a.m. Millie can't sleep. The room is stuffy, airless. She comes downstairs and turns on the TV quietly. Andrew drifts in too, restless. They end up talking. Nothing dramatic, just two people awake in the middle of the night. But Nina wakes up and finds them there. She sees her husband laughing softly with the young housemaid at 2 a.m, and something in her shifts. Andrew goes back to bed. Nina stays behind and tells Millie, flat and cold, "Pack your things in the morning. You're fired." Millie goes pale. She begs. She apologizes. She promises it won't happen again. Nina watches her for a long moment and then lets it go, this time. The next day, a few of Nina's friends come over to the house. They sit together drinking tea, laughing and chatting with Nina. But when Nina briefly steps away from the room, the friends start talking about her in a completely different tone. Millie, listening from nearby, overhears them saying that Nina was in a mental hospital some time ago, that she has a severe mental illness. They wonder aloud how Andrew puts up with it all, saying he's such a good person and that someone like Nina doesn't really deserve him. But the moment Nina walks back in, these same friends smile and laugh with her as if nothing was ever said. Millie hears every word of it. She realizes that Nina doesn't truly have good friends at all. But more importantly, Millie now begins to understand that Nina might genuinely have some kind of mental illness, and that would explain everything. Why she says one thing one moment and something completely different the next. Why she can be warm and friendly and then suddenly turn furious without warning. Could all be symptoms of her condition. A few more days pass. Then one day, when Nina is out of the house, Millie comes across Nina's medication while cleaning her room. Curious, she looks up what the medication is prescribed for and discovers it's for a severe mental illness. This confirms everything Nina's friends had said. Nina truly does have a serious mental condition. While understanding this helps explain Nina's behavior, it also fills Millie with real fear. Millie becomes afraid of continuing to work in this house. She calls a friend and tries to borrow some money, because if she quits, she'll need to survive until she can find another job. But finding work with her criminal record won't be easy, and she knows it. Unfortunately, her friend can't help, so Millie has no choice but to stay. That night, Millie hears Andrew and Nina having a terrible fight. Since Nina has a mental illness and Andrew seems like such a good person, Millie assumes Nina must be the cause. Later that evening, after Millie finishes her cleaning and is heading back to her room, Andrew comes to her. He seems completely fed up, worn down and disillusioned with his life with Nina. But Millie doesn't want to get involved in someone else's family problems, so she just listens quietly without saying a single word. The next morning, Nina comes to Millie's room with a gift, a beautiful white dress from her own wardrobe. She says she knows she hasn't been easy to work for, and she's sorry. Millie says the wage is enough. She doesn't need gifts, but Nina presses it into her hands with a smile. Then she asks for a small favor. There's a music event this weekend that Andrew has been wanting to go to. Can Millie book tickets and take the whole weekend off in return? Consider it compensation. Millie agrees. Later at the ballet studio waiting for Cece, a young woman strikes up a conversation with Millie. She works as a housemaid in a nearby house. She knows who Nina is, and she asks Millie how much she actually knows about her. Millie mentions what she already knows, the mental illness, the hospital stay. The young woman nods, then goes a step further. She tells Millie that a while back, Nina tried to drown Cece in the bathtub, her own 7-year-old daughter. Andrew came home just in time and saved her. That's what sent Nina to the hospital. And Millie also learns something else. Cece isn't Andrew's biological daughter. Nina had her from a previous relationship with a professor who turned out to have deceived her. It was during a worsening episode of Nina's mental illness that she tried to kill Cece. After that incident, Nina was put into a mental hospital and released several months later. But even now, the illness is still there, and that's what Millie only now fully understands. After hearing all this, not just Millie but we, watching the film, feel a deep sense of fear. The class ends. Millie brings Cece home, and the moment she walks in, Nina comes at her, furious about the tickets Millie booked. Too expensive, she says. She's going to deduct the cost from Millie's pay, but it was Nina who asked her to book them. Millie says so, calmly. Nina insists on a completely different version of events. Andrew appears, reads the room in seconds, and steps in. He settles Nina down, then turns to Millie privately. "Don't worry," he says. "I'll sort it out. This isn't your fault." The next day, Nina takes Cece on an overnight day trip. Andrew can't join. He has work. So that evening, it's just the two of them in the house. Andrew comes to find Millie and explains he couldn't get a refund on the tickets. He suggests she take her partner to the event instead. The tickets shouldn't go to waste. Millie tells him she doesn't have a partner. There's a pause. Then Andrew makes a suggestion. If neither of them has plans, why don't they go together? Millie hadn't seen that coming, but she wants to go, more than she'll admit to herself, because somewhere in the middle of all this, she's developed real feelings for Andrew. She says yes. She puts on Nina's white dress. They leave together. The evening is everything the rest of the week wasn't. Easy, fun, light. They drink wine, they laugh, and they lose track of time. By the end of the night, neither of them can drive. Andrew suggests they book rooms at a nearby hotel and head home fresh in the morning. They book 2 rooms. Andrew says goodnight and goes to his. Millie goes to hers and plugs in Nina's phone to charge. When it finally turns on, the screen floods with messages. Nina had been trying to reach her all evening. Message after message, each one angrier than the last. The final one says she's fired. Millie's stomach drops. She goes to Andrew. He tries to calm her down. And then, in that quiet hotel room, something shifts between them. The affair begins. They return home the next morning. Nina arrives a little later and walks in as though yesterday never happened. No anger, no accusations, just a normal morning. She chats pleasantly with both of them. Then, mid-conversation, she turns to Millie and asks lightly, "Did you learn to cook this well when you were in prison?" The air goes out of the room. Millie's face gives everything away. Nina knows. She's known for a while, and she's just chosen this moment to let Millie know that she knows. It's a warning dressed up as small talk. Nina then sends Millie on an errand. "Go to the supermarket. Take my car." At the supermarket, Millie runs into one of Nina's friends who had visited the house. The woman spots Nina's old phone in Millie's hand and says, "You should never have taken that. You should have refused." Millie asks why. The woman explains, "Nina doesn't do anything without a reason. That phone is almost certainly tracking your every move." Millie stands there, the weight of it sinking in. Nina already knows where she and Andrew went. Maybe she's known everything all along. She's still processing this when police officers appear and grab her. They say she stole Nina's car. Millie tells them Nina gave her the car. They don't believe her. Then Andrew arrives. He talks to the police, explains exactly what happened, and gets Millie out. They drive home together. Nina is waiting. Nina starts in immediately, but this time Andrew doesn't step aside. He faces her directly and says what he should have said long before, that he's watched her torment this woman from day one, that it ends now, and that she needs to leave. Nina stands there stunned. The house is his. She has no ground to stand on, so she slaps Millie across the face, picks up her things, and walks out. And just like that, everything changes. Andrew and Millie begin building a life together in that house. It's quiet, warm. For the first time in longer than she can remember, Millie feels something close to happiness. She's not sleeping in a car anymore. She's not lying to police officers. She finally has something that feels like a future. It lasts a few days. Then, while cleaning up after a meal, Millie glances out the window and sees Enzo watching her from the garden. That same stare. It startles her so badly that a plate slips from her hands. Not just any plate. Andrew's favorite Chinese piece, the most treasured one in his entire collection. It shatters into 21 fragments on the kitchen floor. Andrew comes in at the sound. He first shouts at Enzo and sends him away. Then he turns to Millie and speaks calmly. "It's fine, don't worry. We can have it repaired. Just gather the pieces and set them aside." Millie does exactly that. When Andrew gets home from work that evening, he sees the pieces collected on the counter, but unwashed, uncleaned. His expression changes. It's brief and hard to read. Is it anger? Something else? He says nothing. He simply suggests they go up to the attic room and have some wine together. They do. Millie barely remembers falling asleep. She wakes up the next morning and Andrew is gone. The door's closed. She reaches for the handle, and it doesn't move. Locked from the outside. She calls out to Andrew. His voice comes from just beyond the door, quiet and very calm. He tells her she made a mistake. She'll understand what that mistake was soon enough. Millie laughs a little, nervously. "Surely this is a joke?" "It is not a joke." He says this, and then she hears his footsteps walk away. Both Millie and we watching the film are stunned, because from the very first moment we met Andrew, we believed in him completely. The steady, kind, patient one, the good one. But the good one doesn't lock people in rooms. And from this point on, we start to see who Andrew really is. Then we cut away, and we're shown Nina. Nina, who left the house in a fury, is now free, visibly, genuinely free, and we're about to find out why. We're taken into Nina's past. She was 8 years old when a fire tore through her family home and took both her parents. That's where the damage began. She grew up, pushed through it, got herself to college, and in college, she fell into a relationship with one of her professors. Cece came from that. Then Nina discovered the truth. He had been using her. She was left alone with a baby daughter and no safety net. She rebuilt herself from scratch, working at a private company, raising Cece on her own, holding everything together through sheer will. That's where she met Andrew. He was warm, easy to smile, and patient. She felt safe around him immediately. He told her Cece was like his own child, that he would be a father to her and a devoted husband to Nina. He had been married once before, briefly to a woman named Catherine, but told Nina that relationship had simply broken down. He'd moved on. So had Nina. She married him, brought Cece to his house, and for a few weeks they were happy. Then one day, Andrew noticed Nina's hair. She used to take such care of it. Since the wedding, she'd stopped. He didn't say anything, not right away. Instead, he asked her to help him find some documents in the attic. She went up. There were no documents. He locked the door behind her. When Nina realized what was happening, she thought it was a joke. Then he started talking. He told her, "Your hair was one of the reasons I married you. You've let it go. That's a mistake. And so now, as punishment for that mistake, you're going to pull out 100 strands of your hair, carefully, one by one. Put them in this envelope and slide it under the door. When I check them, I'll let you out. I think now you all understand." Even though he appeared to be such a good person on the outside, this Andrew is a #1 psychopath. He needs everything in his life to match the picture in his head. And when it doesn't, his true nature comes out, just like this. And this is the moment Nina understands, for the second time in her life, she has been deceived by a man. First the professor, now Andrew. His true nature is only revealing itself to her right now, in this locked room. And Nina has absolutely nothing she can do. Nina screamed. She went to the window and called for help, but just as Millie would later discover, no sound from that room ever carries downstairs. She was trapped for days with nothing but a few small bottles of water and a bucket. No toilet, nothing. By the second day, faint with hunger and fear, she understood she was going to have to do what he asked. So she pulled her hair out, strand by strand, 100 of them, and slid the envelope under the door. Andrew examined every single strand. Some had broken during the pulling. He sent it back. She had to do it again, properly, until he was satisfied. Only then did he let her out. She ran straight to Cece and tried to leave, but Andrew wouldn't allow it. And this is where the bathtub story becomes something else entirely. What the world believed, that Nina, in a break with reality, had tried to drown her own daughter, was a lie Andrew built deliberately. He put Cece in the water. Nina pulled her out. Then Andrew called the police himself and told them Nina had done it. Everyone believed him. The loving, stable husband. The troubled wife. Nina was sent to a mental hospital, treated for months, and then released. Back into the same house, under the same roof, where Andrew had already won. She pretended to comply. She smiled and cooked and played the role. And quietly, she made a plan with Enzo, who had seen enough to understand the truth. They worked on getting passports made. They tried to slip away with Cece. Andrew found out. Nina went back to the hospital. Another few months, another release. And that's when Nina finally understood. She couldn't run. Not the way she'd been trying. Because even if she made it out, the legal system would hand Cece straight back to Andrew. She was the unstable one, officially. He was the reliable one, on paper. She needed a different way. And she found Andrew's one real weakness. Beautiful young women in difficult situations. He couldn't help but get close to them. So she built a trap around that weakness, and she needed exactly the right person to put inside it. She needed Millie. She found her through research. Millie had the look Andrew was drawn to, and a history that made her vulnerable and completely dependent on keeping her job. Nina brought her in, played the warm and welcoming hostess, then slowly, deliberately became the villain of the story. She pushed Millie toward Andrew by being unbearable to live with. She gave him every reason to step in, protect Millie, and pull away from his own wife. And Andrew, just as Nina predicted, did exactly what he always does. He moved in. He grew attached, and in the end, he threw his own wife out of the house himself. Nina's plan had worked. She got out with her daughter and didn't have to run. Now we come back to the present. Andrew has slid a shard of the broken plate under the door of the attic room. The plate broke into 21 pieces, and so his punishment for Millie is this. Using that shard, she is to inflict 21 deep wounds on herself, one for each piece. Now, Millie truly begins to understand what kind of psychopath she's been living with. In the silence of that locked room, her own past comes back to her. The crime she committed, the one that took years of her life. It happened in college. A young man from her class was attacking her closest friend, trying to assault her. Millie stepped in. She hit him from behind to stop it. He died from that blow. And then, in the aftermath, her friend said nothing to the police. No alibi, no context. So Millie was convicted with no defense and no mercy. She went to prison for protecting someone who couldn't be bothered to protect her in return. Millie has now been trapped in that room for a day or two. There's almost no water left. She knows Andrew won't open that door unless she does what he said, so with no other choice, she uses the shard all 21 times. Andrew watches through a camera, sees she's done it, and comes inside. The moment he steps through the door, Millie moves. She shoves him hard, grabs his phone, and runs. She locks him in the room. Then she stands on the other side of the door and lets the rage out. She slides a tool under the door and tells him, "Your punishment is to use that to pull out a front tooth." Andrew refuses. So Millie walks to his collection, every plate, every cup, everything he spent years amassing, and starts smashing them on the floor, one after another. Then she threatens to set the room on fire from the outside. Andrew, for the first time in this entire story, has no move left. He uses the tool. He does what she said. That same night, Nina comes back. She'd gotten out. Yes, but she'd used Millie to do it. Another woman, alone and vulnerable, handed straight to Andrew. She can't leave it there. She comes quietly to the house, goes up to the attic, and sees the door locked from the outside. She doesn't know Andrew is in there. She opens it. Andrew comes out like something unleashed. He goes for Millie, but gets Nina first. He grabs her, and then Millie is behind him. She pushes. Andrew goes down the stairs, and at the bottom, he stops moving. Nina and Millie stand in the silence of what just happened. They pull a light bulb from its fitting and place it on the floor. Their story for the police. He was trying to remove it, lost his balance, fell, but the police are thorough. The body tells a different story, a missing tooth, other injuries that don't match a simple fall. The detective assigned to the case looks at the scene and understands that something doesn't add up. But this detective isn't a stranger to Andrew's name, because Andrew was married once before to a woman named Catherine, and Catherine had lived through exactly this. She had told her family what he was. Nobody believed her. She eventually left because it was the only thing she could do, and spent years afterwards trying to put herself back together. The detective assigned to this case is Catherine's sister. She has known about Andrew for a long time. She just never had the evidence to act, and now he is dead, and she is the one holding the file. She closes it. Accidental death. Nina and Millie walk away clean. In the weeks that follow, Andrew is buried. Nina now realizes that Andrew's psychopathic traits were something he inherited from his own mother. Nina sits in the quiet of a life, finally her own. If Millie hadn't been there, Nina might never have made it out. She might not have made it at all. So Nina finds Millie. She gives her a significant amount of money, enough to start over, enough to breathe. But the film doesn't end there, because Nina and Millie both know there are more women like Nina, more houses like that one, more men behind polished smiles and steady voices who are quietly building prisons around the people closest to them. Nina starts connecting those women to Millie, and Millie, the woman who once had nothing, who slept in her car and lied to police officers just to survive, now has a purpose. She goes to those houses, she works as a housemaid, and she helps those women find their way out. That is how the story of this incredible film ends. There's a saying, you cannot measure a person by their smile or by their words. And I personally believe this film has demonstrated that truth in exactly the right way. So what did you think of this film? Leave a comment down below, and if you watched all the way to the end, don't forget to leave a like as well. So then, we'll meet again very soon with another incredible film you'll love. As we always say, Plotwalkers, we will meet again.